Hey you, I'm Sarah Turner. I'm a freelance copywriter and copywriting mentor, and I have learned so much in working with almost 4,000 freelance copywriters. So I want to share some of that with you today. Hello, my friend. Welcome, and let's dig into the 11 signs that you might be overcomplicating things in your freelance business. And let's talk about how to simplify so that you can move into a business that brings you more ease. Ease is one of my favorite words to focus on because it's so easy for us to overthink things and overcomplicate things and make a business that is just, quite frankly, really stressful. But it doesn't have to be that way. Truly, I can tell you from experience that I have run a freelance business that was draining and terrifying and filled with anxiety and stress. And I have run a freelance business where I was like, this is pretty awesome. Super easy, super smooth, super calm. And so much of that is going to be covered in this video because I've learned a ton over the years. And I'm excited to share it with you. This is probably the number one thing I see newbies struggle with. They overcomplicate, they overthink, and hey, I was totally guilty of this too. As time has gone on, what I have really come to value is simplicity. My business now runs in a very minimalist way. And the way I do that is I have checkpoints throughout the year. Every quarter, every 6 months, I make sure that I set aside a time for big picture thinking. And what I mean by that is really taking a step back so that I'm not in it all day long and looking at things that are working, not working, areas where I'm experiencing resistance, and making sure I'm taking the time to adjust and make changes to recalibrate so that I'm not letting my business run me and instead I'm running my business. So here are some of the most common signs that you might be overcomplicating your freelance business. So first things first, you're able to book discovery calls and hop on phone calls with clients, but as soon as it gets to that step where they're supposed to actually pay, something's not quite right, and they're not actually taking the next step. So more often than not, whenever I dig into somebody's freelance business, what I find is they are overcomplicating this part of the process, meaning they're complicating the proposal, or they're not giving their client the next step, or they're giving them far too many options and it's confusing them. It's overwhelming them. And whatever it is not, hell yes, let's get going, take my money, right? So if that sounds like you, or if you've struggled in that area, I want you to take a look at the email you're sending, the follow-up, the proposal, whatever it is, contracts, deposits, whatever that process looks like, I'm willing to bet it's overly complicated. The next common sign that you're overcomplicating things in your freelance business is that emails are taking forever. Now, to be fair, emails are a pretty time-consuming task and quite frankly could be one of the first things that you outsource. But if it is something that is taking way too long, I'm willing to bet that your emails are unnecessarily complicated. One of the things that helps with this so much is that I don't actually ask my clients questions within the emails. What I do is I ask them questions where relevant within either the Google Doc that I'm sending them or the proposal itself. The other thing that I do is I really try to consolidate questions if I do have to send them in an email. I really view part of my job as making my clients' life easier. So if you're sending them emails with one-off questions as they pop into your head, you are overly complicating things. I want to encourage you to make your best guess and to move forward. And if you need to, call it out. So maybe you want to include a story in a piece that you're writing, but you didn't actually get that story from your client. What you can do is you can actually make a guess. Type out the story, include a few details, or even say insert story here, and leave a note for them whenever they come across or go through to do edits to give you some of the details you need to actually flesh out that part of your piece. Another reason emails might be taking forever is that you're just including a lot of unnecessary information. I can't tell you, when I work with freelance copywriters, graphic designers, and any sort of freelancer in my business, and I work with a ton, when they send emails that are overly complicated or they take too much time just overly explaining their thought process, usually what I end up thinking is, hey, I hired you because you're a professional. I don't need you to preface every little thing with why you did it because I trust you. That's why I'm working with you. So if emails feel like they're taking way too long, ask yourself, Am I including a lot of unnecessary information? And are there questions that I can incorporate into my actual process so that whatever it is can be addressed as and when the client kind of comes across that particular point? Because it's also going to give them a lot more context, so it's going to be helpful all around. The other place where I see freelancers really unnecessarily overcomplicate things, it's in the onboarding process. Listen, I try to get everything I can out of my client in my discovery call process. That is my strategy. And I will say so often, again, when I work with freelancers, they have these really beautiful but unnecessarily complicated onboarding processes that, quite frankly, doesn't really get them the results they're looking for because maybe it's a form or a questionnaire or something like that. And if you're working with a busy business owner, for them to sit down and actually fill that out, it's really time consuming. What I like to do is make that a conversation, incorporate that into my discovery call so that when we get off that call and I send them a proposal, I have everything I need to get started. Obviously, there are going to be some exceptions because I like to see some of the other pieces of copy that they've been using, things that have worked, things that haven't worked. But for the most part, I incorporate everything that I can into that one phone call to reduce the amount of work that I'm putting on my client. Because again, one of the things I really, really value in working with freelancers, but also in how I deliver my work to clients is making their lives easier. And when you give them a massive questionnaire to fill out, that is not helping them. Not to mention, they don't often put the time and energy into it that you really need. And when you ask them questions, rather than giving them time to think about it and actually fill it out, they're going to give you a much more honest answer. Not because they're being dishonest, but because it's going to be off the cuff. That's why I really, really love this strategy. The other place where I see freelancers overly complicating their business is that they haven't automated anything. Listen, there are going to be parts in your process that you can fully automate, and it is going to be a game changer. Maybe that's booking calls with Calendly links and having that ready to go on your website. Maybe it is filling out a little bit of a form just to make sure that they're a good fit so you don't hop on a discovery call with them without knowing that it's going to be a worthwhile conversation for you. Maybe it is using, some of the really helpful tools. Some people love Dubsado, FreshBooks, things like that. Let me tell you, you should absolutely have some sort of payment processing integrated into your processes, because there is nothing more frustrating than working with a freelancer who's like, okay, send me a PayPal, please use friends and family, so it doesn't charge me any fees. And I'm like, I don't have my PayPal set up, or my PayPal isn't connected to my business. Give your client options so that they can easily and readily pay you. And also, it's going to help you look so much more professional. Also, there are a lot of wonderful tools, Honeybooks, Dubsado, for doing proposals and contracts all under one umbrella. Some of those can be pretty overly complicated, but if you can make it work for you so that it isn't taking up too much of your time and it's actually making your life easier, then by all means, automate that. Automating things in your business is going to help you so much. Another sign that you're overly complicating things in your business is thinking that your peers or feeling like everyone is ahead of you. Now, this is one that might have gotten missed, right? Because it's not about the nuts and bolts so much, and it's much more about your feelings and emotions. I cannot tell you how many times I've worked one-on-one with a freelance copywriter, and we've come to discover that the reason they're really struggling is because they're comparing themselves to people who have been doing this far longer than they have. Or they're thinking that they need to be writing sales pages to be considered a successful copywriter, when in fact their strong suit are emails or blogs or website copy. And so they are constantly doubting themselves and thinking that they're less than because they are not reaching some pinnacle of success that they've created in their mind. And sometimes the best thing that you can do is to stick with what is good and comes easy for you, and to just really own it and get better at that, because there's no shame in that. Another sign that you might be overcomplicating your business is that you're playing phone tag or email tag often. That's because you guys can't get on the same page. One of the best things you can do is to just drop a Calendly link, because that's going to give you guys a way to organize your schedules and be able to meet up and have your client find a time that works for them. If you're playing email tag, what that tells me is that there isn't a CTA or the next action, or there's confusion as to what is the next step. So if you are going back and forth and not really getting anywhere and spinning your wheels, you probably need to tell your client what they need to do. They are looking to you for advice. You are the professional. You are the one that they need to give guidance. So tell them, this is what you need to do next. Here's what I need from you. Do this, do that. Really take the reins and ownership of the situation. Here's another thing I see freelancers do all the time to overcomplicate their business, and that is doing things that they feel are impressive. So, what does that look like? That could be flowery language, which really doesn't help with clarity and leaves people feeling confused. That could be using tools that are not quite necessary. A lot of project management tools, in my opinion, especially when you're a freelancer and it's just you, or maybe you and one other person, those project management tools often create more time and more work. So ask yourself, are there things I'm using in my business that I'm really just doing because it makes me feel more professional? Because quite frankly, at the end of the day, sometimes all you need is like a Google Calendar, an email, and a payment processor. That is what I used for so long. So try not to unnecessarily complicate things. Another sign that you're overly complicating things in your business is that you experience procrastination a lot. Listen, procrastination is normal, it's natural, it happens. I am totally good friends with procrastination. We have hung out quite a bit in my life. But if you find yourself consistently procrastinating, first things first, it's probably based in fear. Check out my video on procrastination because I've got a lot of helpful tips for you there. But for most part, procrastination is based in some sort of unresolved emotion or a fear that kind of needs to be addressed, or at least that's the best way to kind of push through it. So if you're regularly having issues with procrastination, try to get to the bottom of it. And again, definitely check out that video because I dig a lot more into it. But it's one of the places where I see people overthink things and overcomplicate things in their business. Another area where I see freelancers really overcomplicate things, and this is a big one, is they do too many low-ticket projects. Now think about this for a second. Every single project you have is going to have associated admin work, associated calls and emails and invoicing and contracts or whatever, right? And if you're doing lots of little projects, you're going to increase your workload tremendously. So if you can really focus on offering bigger packages, next level offers as I like to call them, or just strategic guidance and how to implement whatever it is you're offering, because this goes for any freelancer really, to make it more valuable and higher ticket, you're immediately going to reduce the amount of admin work you have to do, and you're going to increase what I like to call your secret hourly rate, or what you're earning per hour, because remember, I never recommend charging hourly. So the last two are so important, and I'm really glad you stuck with me, because these are some of the biggest things that I see people struggling with in their freelance business. The first one being not letting go of something that isn't serving them. This could be a mindset or a should, something that you think should be done or should be done a certain way. It could also be a tool or a service or something that you paid a lot for. Now let's talk a little bit about this. First things first, if it's a should, listen. There are so many ways to run your business. You have to do what works for you. And yes, it's important to listen to all the wonderful advice out there to get the shortcuts you need to really build your business. But ultimately, you're going to reach a point where you have to figure out what works best for you. And when you do that, I want to encourage you to ask yourself, am I doing this because it helps my bottom line, because it is good for me and my business, or am I doing it because I feel like I should be doing it? Because these shoulds really hold us back from simplifying our business. I'll give you an example. Even though I literally built my freelance business to not work 40 hours a week, I sat down in front of my computer from 9 until 5 for so many years. And I had this realization that it was because I felt like I needed to do that for my work to be viewed as valuable in today's world. And the thing is nobody was watching me. Nobody knew how many hours I was sitting down and working. So when I realized I was still running my business according to society's shoulds and not to what works best for me, I was like, okay, never again am I going to work 40 hours a week, because quite frankly, that's not when I do my best work. I do my best work working about 5 to 6 hours a day. And as soon as I reduced the amount of time that I was actually sitting down and cranking out work, my work got better. I became happier and lighter and freer, and I was able to produce more quality work. And now I know that can be a little counterintuitive, but think about it for a second. So many of us have had the experience of working a 9-to-5 job, and those last few hours of the day are not our most productive usually. It's usually the time where we're kind of twiddling our thumbs and waiting to clock out. I really, really believe that all of us have a sweet spot of what we are able to do and where we produce the most high quality work, and it's so important to figure out what that is for you. Now, I want to talk a little bit about if you have something that you've paid for that you think you have to stick to. And if you're not familiar with the idea of sunk costs, it's an incredibly freeing idea. And the simplified version is this: it's that you shouldn't make decisions today based in decisions that you made in the past, right? Because you're letting your past dictate your future. So for example, maybe you bought tickets to an event that was going to be really helpful. It was a workshop or something like that. That when you purchased the tickets to this event, you thought it was going to be really good for your business. Now, fast forward 6 months and the time is coming to go to that event and you're like, ugh, I don't think this is the best thing for my business anymore, or me. For whatever reason, I've gone a different direction, but I've already paid for this event, and so now I feel like I have to go do it. That, my friend, is letting the past dictate your present, and it's actually really harmful, and it causes people to spin their wheels a lot longer than they need to. Another one, quite frankly, is university. I can't tell you the number of times I've talked to people who have gone to college and they feel like they have to stick to their career choice that they made in college when they were in their 20s? Because they invested so much time and money into it. But that is so harmful because you're forcing yourself to make decisions in your present based on something you did maybe even a decade ago. So free yourself, my friend, with this idea of sunk costs, knowing that it is already done. The time, the money you already spent on that is long gone. It's long gone. But don't let it influence the decisions you make today if it's not serving you today, right? And the final one I want to leave you with that I see freelancers really struggling with, and honestly any online business owner as well, is that you're not taking time to take a step back and reflect on the big picture that is your business. And I mentioned that a little bit before, but it's so, so important. And I want to leave you with a few questions that have really, really helped me. So I always schedule in days. I call them big picture thinking days. I don't do any work, and I literally schedule these days into my calendar. I call them big picture thinking days, and I don't do any actual work. I try to get out of my business, right? And I take a step back and I look at it and I ask myself some of these questions. What is working really well? What is not working really well? Where am I experiencing a ton of resistance? What is lighting me up or bringing me joy? And what is an absolute drag? How can I do more things that bring me joy? And how can I do less things that are bringing me down, slowing me down, where I experience resistance? And then I look to see, can I outsource anything? Can I automate anything? Can I just stop doing anything? I can't tell you the number of times I've done this exercise and I was like, you know what? I'm just not gonna do that. And there's no better feeling than just being like, no, I'm not going to do that anymore. And this, my friend, is how you run your business rather than having it run you.